Which city is incredible as a tourist, but horrible to live in, and why? Hong Kong. Highly distinctive city with an incredibly lively nightlife and plentiful street food options. Living there sucks though, an increasingly oppressive political environment in combination with what is probably the least affordable housing market in the developed world. Victoria, BC. Really **** expensive, huge worker shortage, little real estate market, yet not a whole lot around the city happens either. I live in Greater Victoria myself, but still experience every one of those things. It's really saddening how many people want to move here. Most mountain towns. High coal, small year-round population, littered and high-priced stores. Gonna have to nominate Cape Town. For tourism? Yeah, it's absolutely stunning. Beautiful views, good beaches, food, all kinds of things for tourists to enjoy, but outside of that bubble much of the population live in **** neighborhoods caught up in gang warfare, and even the wealthier, more sheltered folks aren't totally safe. As someone who was born and raised Austin, Texas, this city is becoming like this. Great to visit and see the sights, but living there is near impossible due to the cost, and a lot of the local flavor has become mass-produced and kitschy. Makes me sad. I was gonna say Hollywood, but most tourists hate it once they actually see it in person. It's dirty, full of traffic, and filled with the omnipresent yet vague smell of piss. Las Vegas. Literally once you leave the strip, which you have to if you're going to live there, everything sucks but the food. Everything is expensive, there's loud slot machines in almost every major store, there's high crime, there's lots of self-absorbed arseholes. The weather sucks. Half the roads are unpainted for no reason. The city planning makes no sense. The dating scene is as dry as the surrounding desert, unless you're a showgirl, and even they have lousy luck sometimes. Nobody knows how to drive. Nobody wants to hire anybody. Dubai, it's so expensive. Virtually any popular city can qualify. I visited New York City many years ago. Spent several days seeing all the major landmarks. Then I realized it was really just another city consisting of people living mundane lives. Pyongyang. As a tourist, you get some sort of VIP treatment. Professional North Korean tour guides, who are usually very nice people, very educated within the framework of their own society, and speak English or any other language the tours are conducted in at a near native level. I remember how we visited some museums with an English-speaking tour, and the staff at the museum spoke French at near native level. I guess they had no French tour group right then, and needed some staff for the museum. Their French was much better than mine, and I'm a translator, and had French as a minor. They really try to impress you with their food options, though it sometimes fails, such as you get a great dinner at a restaurant, but cannot order any tea in an East Asian country. The orang mas games are really first class. In order to get the same level of perfection in the Western world, you'd have to think of a Madonna or Michael Jackson concert. But for those who participate, it's of course a lot of hard work. And I don't even want to get into the details of what is wrong with their lives. Maybe just 2 examples. You need a passport in order to leave Pyongyang. And there are passport checks on the highway. I've seen them. Soldiers check that you are really allowed to travel. And if people do things they are not supposed to do, they tend to disappear. Orlando. Lots of things for tourists to do, tons of great restaurants, but traffic is a bear, and getting places can be a real chore. Also it's inland, so the summers are hot and humid with little to no breeze. It's like living in hell, but the humidity is higher. New Orleans ***. It's got its big parties like Mardi Gras, sports, pretty touristy areas, and great food, but it's not a nice place to live. Crime is a big problem. Much of it never recovered from Hurricane Katrina, and many of the famed old restaurants and clubs have been hammered by COVID in the current economic turmoil. Naples, or Napoli, is beautiful. The castles, the food, nearby Capri, Amalfi Coast, Pompeii, Reggia di Caserta. Even as a tourist you can see that the grand old lady has cracks. I lived nearby for a while, and the petty and organized crime is off the hook. Crumbling infrastructure makes living difficult, and there are way too many soccer hooligans named Digo. Vancouver. A beautiful playground for the rich, but impenetrable for anyone else. Miami. Boston, but only because real estate is ridiculous, otherwise it'd be okay to live in to foodies. Los Angeles. You can traverse several cultures in a couple of hours. Or experience different climates in one day. However, we have the highest gas prices and public transportation is a joke, causing shortage and the available ones are too expensive. TL. Doctor, don't live anywhere at all. Everywhere sucks. Sesm, Turkey. Beautiful tourist town, amazing beaches, etc. But I'm sure you'll know about Turkey's current aka going on for God knows how many years now, political situation. Hawaii for sure. When I visited for my first time, I dreamed of living there. Shortly after my first visit, my husband got stationed there. I absolutely hated living there and counted down the days to return mainland. Florence. It's still a wonderful city, not horrible, but once you live there long enough to know that every single puddle is piss, it becomes less dazzling. This could honestly apply anywhere, everywhere. As a tourist, you're presented this carefully edited, carefree bubble where only the trendy quarters, the good cafes, the pretty historical landmarks exist. As a resident, usually can't even afford to live in those elite areas to begin with, all aired out to tourists like yourself because owners meanwhile figured out night by night tenants are more lucrative than long-term renters. So if you're lucky enough to land yourself in an unproblematic neighborhood with decent neighbors, there's rent to pay, bills to worry about, local taxes and permits, tons and tons of paperwork, there's constantly things needing to be fixed in the building, got to find a place to park your car somehow, people letting their dogs asterisk on your doorstep, or youngsters with no life just casually hanging out under your window and being loud and obnoxious. $1 million a view from your balcony maybe, as state-of-the-art your loft, as delicious that coffee around the corner, or as conveniently nearby everything is, the romance from the brochures is going to wane off soon enough. Denver, Colorado. Pricing for housing is so expensive, even a studio apt is rivaling New York City now in some areas. A lot of places have bad areas and bad neighborhoods. Bad parts in Denver are all spread out. Some streets have gotten taken over by tents and garbage just littered everywhere. Homeless problem is very real. Traffic is weird, at certain parts there's always bad traffic, no matter what time of day. Visiting is cool, living there? Nah. Banff. Very expensive, filled with annoying tourists who jump out of their cars to take pictures of bears, and there is basically nowhere to live that is affordable. Bad drivers too. Chicago, I love it, but would hate the winter there. Why is every city so expensive to live in these days? San Francisco. Nice to visit. The tourist areas and sports venues are top notch and just incredible places. Shithole to live in. Huge homeless/drug problem, no residential parking, smells bad much of the time, dirty streets, nightlife for such a big city, expensive to live in, crime like theft is encouraged, just an overall horrible place to live. That said, and cost aside, some of the surrounding Bay Area suburbs are among the nicest places to live in the world. High paying jobs, beautiful locations, mountain/ocean/lakes/forest/pro sports all within a short drive, near perfect year-round weather, some of the world's top universities, etc. Lahaina. Orlando. Tokyo. I've heard Honolulu is like that. Beautiful vacation spot without a doubt, but it's stuck in the middle of the ocean, vulnerable to hurricanes, and has a bit of a homeless problem. Most vacation destinations are this way. Certainly mountains and beach, but even major cities as well. You know what makes a place pretty horrible to live? Tons of people. You know who the worst people tend to be? Tourists. Fun to visit. Major sports, high profile concerts and events, great food options. But I'd rather live in a moderately sized town close to hiking trails, after, or national parks. Amsterdam, because of the tourists. Airbark. Gatlinburg, TN. Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg. Vegas. St. Louis. Contains a lot of history and beautiful architectural buildings, but driving is awful and crime rates and high in certain areas. Nashville. Great bars, clubs, and music, but the traffic alone is abysmal. Be too many people in one place. New York City, crazy expensive. Mexico. Too many psychopaths there. Atlanta. There's some pretty fun stuff to do, world-class aquarium, but I'd never want to live there, because the design of the city is so bonkers. It's so sprawling, and car-centric for a city of its size. I'm from the DC area, which is way more walkable and transit-oriented, and I was expecting something that felt like a mix of Philly and DC with a southern flair, but it almost felt like a big suburb with skyscrapers. I'd love to visit again sometime, though. I still haven't seen the World of Coke or the zoo, which has pandas, like my home zoo in DC. London. As someone who lives near hundreds of miles of coastline and countryside on a peninsula type setup, all of them. I love to visit a city, but I could never live in one. LA, it's full of crazy. Vegas. Do not step off the strip. St. Augustine, Florida. Once a hurricane hits, you're gonna be flooded, since you're surrounded by ocean, not to mention the traffic. Washington, D.C. Not going to be a popular opinion, but I think Portland, Maine is not a great place to live. It's expensive as hell, crowded, schools there suck, and it gets so many tourists in the summer trying to see Maine. Paris. New Orleans. It's hot as hell in the summer, so humid you can feel the moisture against your skin, and a pretty low income area, not to mention the perpetually drunken tourists and the crime. Sydney. Berlin. Charlevoix, Michigan is awesome to visit for a few days, but horrible to live in. High taxes, weird people, almost nothing to do if you're not a tourist, -30-degree winters with 6 inches of snow every day in the winter. Cops pull you over and go fishing over the smallest things. Myrtle Beach. Brazil. New Orleans. Insane housing prices, crumbling infrastructure, sky-high taxes, and rampant crime. Anywhere on Cape Cod. Las Vegas. It's a cool tourist destination, but living here just sucks. There's not a whole lot to do that's non-touristy. And if you want anything that's not here in the valley, you're looking at least a 2 to 4 hour drive. Dublin, Ireland.